If you're just learning about narcissism, you might be curious about what it looks like in real life. There's a lot of theories and descriptions and explanations of different behaviors, but in this video, I want to get as specific as I can about what it looks like when you're actually dealing with a real life narcissist. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. The examples that I'm going to go over in this video are, in my opinion, things that when you see these in somebody consistently and pervasively, like this is a normal way that they operate, I would bet that you're dealing with a pathological narcissist. I think these are pretty obvious signs that you're dealing with a narcissist. That being said, no two narcissists are ever going to behave exactly alike. So just because you are dealing with a person that maybe doesn't behave in these specific ways, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not a narcissist, but if they are behaving in these ways, I would bet they probably are. There is no one behavior or one giveaway sign that all narcissists engage in. Narcissism isn't really a behavior. The behavior that gives it away is giving away the thought patterns. Narcissism is a thought pattern and a pattern of perception. It's the way that the narcissist sees the world. It's the lenses or the filter that the narcissist sees the world through. The behaviors are simply a result of the narcissism. The behaviors are not the narcissism itself, which is why the behaviors can vary so much. That being said, let's get into some real life examples of what narcissism looks like. Firstly, confusion. Dealing with a narcissist is very confusing, and this is a huge red flag of narcissism. And of course, plenty of people can act in a confusing way without being narcissistic, so let me get a little more specific. Narcissists are the kings and queens of mixed messages, of inconsistencies, of contradicting themselves, of saying one thing one day and saying the complete opposite the other, and then having no awareness or being unwilling to agree on what reality was, on what it was they said yesterday. Narcissists deny reality. They deny objective facts. They deny things that are right in front of their face, and this can be extremely confusing. So let me give you some specific examples of things that narcissists will do to confuse people. My first example is something I actually experienced. I had a narcissist talk to me about a conversation that he had with his friend. And this was when I was first dating him. And there were some unique circumstances surrounding the beginning of our relationship, which he shared with this friend who had also experienced similar things. So he was telling me about this conversation that he had with this friend about our relationship. And the way that he relayed this conversation to me was really kind of touching, I thought. And I thought it was really nice, the things that this friend shared with him. And I remembered him telling me about this conversation because I thought it was kind of a positive thing. And then maybe a year later, I was talking about this. It came back up in conversation and I said, yeah, remember that conversation you had with your friend about our relationship? And he said, I never told any of my friends about that. I mean, he just point blank told me that it never happened. He never had that conversation and he didn't know what I was talking about. And this was really confusing. And I still to this day wonder, did that conversation never happen and he was just lying to me about having the conversation? Or did he later just want to pretend he didn't have that conversation and he didn't want to talk about it? Did he not remember having this conversation? If so, why would he be so adamant about not having it? Like, how did he know he didn't have this conversation? And of course, one of the most confusing things is why? Why would you lie about this? Why would you lie about having a conversation with your friend about a relationship that you're in? Whether you're lying about it happening or not happening, what's the point of lying about that? I mean, I still don't know. Another real life example of how narcissists can be confusing is, let's just say that you are with a narcissist who is maybe organizing a room. They're in a room and they're, I don't know, organizing the bookshelves, or maybe they're figuring out things they're going to donate to charity or whatever. And you come along and you say, hey, can I help you? Do you need any help? And the narcissist says, no, I got it. I'm good. And then maybe like the next day, all of a sudden the narcissist will start yelling at you, infuriated, in a rage, and saying like, you never helped me with anything. Like yesterday, I had to organize that whole room all by myself and you never even helped me. And you can come back and say, I asked you if you wanted help, but it's like there's this disconnect where they don't remember you asking them that, or it feels like they don't remember you asking them that. And now they're just infuriated over something that isn't a real problem. And it can be really confusing and disorienting because you never really feel like you're on stable ground. If you see the narcissist doing something, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you ask them if they need help, they'll say no. Do you keep bugging them? Do you take no for an answer? I really think that if the narcissist said no and you insisted, no, really, let me help you, they would probably be angry at you for that. Yet, if you don't help them, even after you've asked them if they need help and they say no, they're going to be angry at you for that. So it's really confusing and it's a no-win situation. There's really nothing you can do to avoid a narcissist getting angry at you. And this is a really good example. And if you don't realize that you're dealing with somebody that has a pathological outlook on the world, this can just be absolutely bewildering and impossible to figure out. Another example of the confusion is just denying reality or stating that things are a way that they are not, or a way that they don't appear to be. A real life example would be, maybe I just cleaned something. Maybe I just vacuumed the floor, let's say, and the narcissist comes along and points right at the floor that I just vacuumed that looks clean to me, and starts talking about how dirty the floor is and how I don't know how to vacuum a floor, and look at this floor, it's so filthy. And it's really confusing because to me, it's subjective. The floor looks clean and I don't understand why the narcissist is insisting it's dirty. There's nothing about it that I can see that looks dirty to me, and yet the narcissist is sure that it's dirty and I don't understand why. That can be really confusing if you don't realize that you're dealing with an irrational person that is never going to think that the floor is clean enough unless they have something else that they can complain about. They're just looking for something to complain about. Another confusing behavior they can engage in is assigning characteristics to you that just don't feel right or that you really don't identify with. Narcissists can tell you that you're self-absorbed or selfish, lazy, inconsiderate, unorganized, whatever. They can come up with these things that they label you with, that they tell you this is the way you are. And if you're someone that really is interested in learning about the things that you can improve about yourself, you might want to listen to somebody's criticism, especially somebody that's really close to you. But when a narcissist criticizes you, the things they criticize you about really don't make any sense. I have received lots of criticisms from narcissists that the more I think about it, it's almost like they're criticizing your strengths. Like if you really pride yourself on what a hard worker you are, for example, and the narcissist tells you that you're lazy, you'll maybe ask for examples of what they mean. Why are you calling me lazy? What is it that makes you think I'm lazy? And, maybe let me look at that and consider what you're talking about. And of course, there's never any real examples that really make any sense. And you're kind of left thinking like, why does this person think I'm lazy? I think I'm a pretty hard worker. And you're really just sitting there confused, wondering if there's some big thing about yourself that you just can't see. I really think all narcissists do this because narcissists are not very good at figuring out who you are as a person. I don't think they really care about your strengths and weaknesses past the way that they can criticize you or manipulate you. And their insults typically have nothing to do with your weaknesses, but rather have to do with the things you value most, the things that you care about. If maybe you're a really messy person and you don't really care, you don't mind making messes and you don't really take any pride in being clean. It's just, you'll leave clutter everywhere. And that's not something that you really care about, the narcissist probably isn't going to criticize you and tell you that you're messy, because that's not really something that hits you. That's not something you value. But let's say you're a very honest person and you really value that, and it's really important to you that you are honest and that people know that you're honest. Well, the narcissist is going to call you a liar and is going to find ways to accuse you of being disingenuous, because the narcissist knows that that's important to you. It doesn't have anything to do with your actual qualities. But if you don't understand all this, it can just be really confusing. Okay, so that's the confusion part of what narcissism looks like. The second thing I want to talk about is the rigidity of narcissism. Narcissists are rigid in their behavior and in the things that they say. And when I say that they're rigid, I mean that there's no give to them. There's no mercy, there's no understanding, there's no empathy, there's no ability to really listen to what you're saying. When they make their minds up about something, that's it. You cannot influence them. You can't really have a dialogue where both of you are learning and growing from what the other is saying. Trying to communicate with a narcissist, trying to influence a narcissist in any way, is like pounding your fists on a brick wall. Narcissists are like brick walls. So all these traits that you see in them and all these frustrating and confusing things that they do and say, they don't really have any ability to listen to you, try to tell them how this is affecting you or other people. They are like brick walls. They can't hear you. They don't understand what you're saying. They don't care what you're saying. They are rigidly set in their ways, and they are rigidly attached to the hills that they choose to die on, which is like every hill. Like they're willing to die on every little hill. They talk at you, not with you. They are unyielding. They become defensive really easily. They are scary to talk to when they become upset. They are extremely stubborn, beyond the word stubborn. So one real life example of how this might manifest is in the silent treatment. Some narcissists can just suddenly engage in the silent treatment, and the silent treatment can last for hours or even weeks sometimes. And this is a sign of real rigidity, when somebody can suddenly engage in the silent treatment and just stay absolutely dedicated to it and be absolutely rigid in not breaking that silent treatment and not listening to anything that the other person might be saying. Another example of the rigidity might be, maybe you're in a situation with a narcissist where you say or you do something that you didn't realize would offend the narcissist, and suddenly the narcissist is offended by something that you did not mean to say or do, or that you did not know would be taken a certain way. Once that happens, if you try to apologize, try to explain, try to work things out, try to be understood, or try to understand, there's just a brick wall in front of you. If you say something like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know that that was going to offend you. I'm sorry," they might say something like, "Well, why would you say something like that in the first place then?" You know, and then you might say, "But that's not what I meant. I didn't mean for it to," whatever way they perceived it. But they're never going to hear you. They're never going to forgive you. They're just going to keep coming back with, "Yeah, but that's what you said. Yeah, but I know that that's what you meant. Yeah, but why would you say something like that?" And they're never going to be okay with it. They're never going to accept your apology. And if they misperceive or completely misunderstand what you've said, it doesn't matter. They're rigidly dedicated to their misunderstanding of what you've said or done. And you can't apologize your way out of it. You can't fix it. There's nothing you can do past that point because of the rigidity. The third thing that narcissists are really notorious for is irrational rage. Narcissists become extremely angry over things that just don't make any sense. Things that normal people just wouldn't get that angry about. Things that maybe a normal person would be a little annoyed over. A narcissist is maybe screaming and throwing things, or maybe just otherwise showing an extreme amount of anger that just doesn't seem proportionate to the situation. This irrational rage can either be very sudden, which to me feels like emotional violence. It feels like being sucker punched with rage. I think a really good example of this is in the movie Mommy Dearest with, I think I hope I'm remembering right, with Faye Dunaway playing the character of Joan Crawford. There's a famous scene, if I remember to link it below, I'll link it below, but there's a famous scene in the movie where the main character is going through her young daughter's closet at night, and she finds wire hangers in the closet, and it's the middle of the night, and her daughter, who is a little girl, is asleep in bed, and she just suddenly flies into a rage, wakes her up screaming at her because there's wire hangers in the closet. And that whole scene, if you can find that and watch it, and you really want to know what a narcissist looks like in real life, that scene is an excellent example of narcissistic rage. It is irrational, it's disproportionate to the situation, it doesn't make any sense, and she just keeps spiraling into just nonsense, and she's just enraged over nothing. So another example might be, maybe you're just sitting at dinner and everything's calm and normal, and you're having a nice normal night, and just all of a sudden, out of the silence, the narcissist might say something like, "Why did you give me a 3-pronged fork?" I don't know, something like that, that just, it's like a sucker punch. It just comes out of nowhere. It feels violent, even though it's not physical. And it's really, it stuns you, and it leaves you just kind of shell-shocked, like, what? And then this person's just going from 0 to 60 just like that, and they just fly off the handle, and they're just so angry about some little stupid thing. Or the irrational rage doesn't necessarily have to be presented in this sudden, violent, sucker punch kind of way. It can also come on a little more slowly, but still be extremely irrational and completely disproportionate to the situation. I had a situation once where I was speaking with a narcissist that had a bunch of beverages in the pantry, had at least 11 or 12 beverages, and he took one out and put it on the counter, and another member of the family came along later that day, saw it, and drank it. And this narcissist was absolutely enraged that this family member had drunken this beverage without asking. And this narcissist brought this up. I mean, he was absolutely enraged for the rest of the night, and he brought this incident up for weeks following, even though the person that drank the beverage sincerely apologized to him that same night. It just didn't matter. This was like some kind of unforgivable sin that somebody had taken his beverage without asking and drunken it. I know drunken's not the right word. Drank it and drank it. But either way, his anger was just completely disproportionate to the situation. It didn't make any sense. And I remember trying to understand why he was so angry, and why, after receiving a sincere apology, he still just could not let this go and would bring it up for weeks following. It was really one of the last straws in this particular relationship that really helped me to see how unhealthy and abusive this relationship really was. And one more extreme example of this irrational rage was I was with a narcissist that liked me to sing songs for him. I like to sing. It's something I've always liked to do. I'm a bit of a singer, and he would have me sing songs for him. It was just this cute thing that he liked for me to do, but then it turned into something completely different, which I don't have time to get into here. But there was this song he wanted me to sing for him, and it wasn't a song that was in my range. I wasn't comfortable with it, and I tried to tell him, like, I don't know, I can't really sing that song very well, but he kept insisting. And we were driving in the car one day, and I finally agreed, okay, I'll sing that song. I'm not making this up, and I'm not exaggerating. I started singing the song, and there were a couple notes in the song that I couldn't hit. And I mean, I'd already told him I couldn't sing this song, right? He flew into a rage, and he started screaming at me and telling me that I'm not trying hard enough, and that I lied to him, that I said I could sing it and now I can't, that I never do anything he asks for. And I remember he was driving the car, and he was just unconsolable. And he even slammed his fist down on the dash. This went on for 10 or 15 minutes until we got to our destination. And I remember he even, at the destination, he actually grabbed me and yanked me a little bit. This was a very pretty traumatizing situation. And it was because I couldn't hit the notes in a song that he wanted me to sing for him. So obviously it's a little upsetting to remember that right now, but the rage didn't make any sense. I'm sure as you're listening to this story now, it's just really unbelievable that somebody could become that enraged over something so silly and something that like I had no control over. So that particular situation is a really good example of very abusive behavior that is completely irrational, and how anger really doesn't have anything to do with anything that you have any control over. These people want to erupt at you, they want to yell at you, they want to dump their anger onto you, and they will find any excuse, no matter how silly, they will find any excuse to do so. The last thing I want to go over is circular arguments. This is a huge red flag, and I do think that there are some mental health conditions that can cause circular arguments, but after the experiences that I've had, I really believe that somebody that's engaging in circular arguments regularly, I think there's a very good chance that they are narcissistic or have extremely high narcissistic traits. So what does circular arguments look like in real life? I first want to refer you to a video that I did last year called How Narcissists Argue. I'll put the link up here. I actually wrote out this whole script and I reenacted this whole argument with a narcissist. That is, I think, a really good representation of what a narcissistic argument looks like and what a cyclical circular argument looks like. So if you're really interested in what that looks like, I recommend that you watch that video, but I'll go over a really simple shortened version of kind of the same thing. I wrote it down here, so I'll just read the little script that I came up with. Let's just say that you are with a narcissist that is maybe starting a new business and they are working on this. You know, they're coming up with ideas, they're maybe building a website, they're just doing all these things, you know, getting a business license. There's work to be done to build a business, right? And you're supportive and you're there to bounce ideas off of, but this is the narcissist's thing, right? This isn't your job. The narcissist is building his or her own business. And let's just say one day that the narcissist suddenly, out of the blue, just becomes really upset with you and says something like, "Why don't you ever help me with my business?" And you might say something like, "Oh, what do you need help with?" And the narcissist will say something like, "I told you 1,000 times," to which you would say, you did? Because of course you have no memory of this because they didn't tell you at all. And then, you know, the narcissist might start getting angry with you saying, "Well, you never listened to me." And then you'll try to respond with something like, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm listening now. What do you need help with?" And they'll say, "Oh, now you take me seriously now that I'm all upset." And, you know, you're really kind of lost. Like, "Well, I'm sorry. I thought I was taking you seriously before. What do you need help with?" I'll do whatever you need." "Well, it's too late now. I needed help with this and that and the other day." And you might say something like, "Well, I'm sorry, if you had let me know, I would have helped you." "Oh, sure. Yeah, now you want to help me." I mean, and this goes in circles. It can go in circles for hours. And you spend all of your time in these circular arguments trying to solve a problem, maybe trying to apologize, maybe trying to explain ways that maybe you were confused, and also trying to figure out what this person wants from you now. What can I do to solve this? What can I do to make you feel better? And there's never any answer. There's never any solution, no resolution. You just go in these endless circles where you're the bad guy. You've really screwed up. You can't redeem yourself. It's too late. You should have thought of that. You should have listened to me. And there's no solution to it, no matter how hard you try. And the harder that you try to explain yourself, the more upset the narcissist gets. And it just, no matter what you do, it just escalates and escalates and escalates. These are circular arguments, and they happen for the sake of argument. Narcissists like to argue. They don't really have a problem. In the example I just gave, the narcissist doesn't really want help with his or her business. He wasn't really expecting that to happen, but he was maybe just in a bad mood and felt like he wanted to pick on somebody, felt like he wanted to start an argument, and that just seemed like a good thing to argue about. And it's really just that simple. He does not want a solution to the problem. He doesn't want to hear an apology or an explanation. He just wants to fight. He just wants to argue, and he just wants to drag it out for as long as possible. And that's what happens. And that's a huge red flag for pathological narcissism. And until you figure that out, it's extremely perplexing, because I think most of us assume that we're in a relationship with a reasonable person, that we're in a relationship with somebody that if they're upset, they actually want something, they want a solution to whatever it is they're upset about. If somebody complains to you, you never help me with X, Y, and Z, and you suggest, okay, well, let me start helping you, most normal people are going to cooperate with that because that's what they wanted. That's what they're upset about, right? But narcissists are never really upset about the thing that they're upset about, and you really can never figure out how to help them with whatever it is they're so angry about, because they just really want to express anger in general, and that's what they want. And I just want to say that while identifying these patterns in people and figuring out for yourself that somebody you're close to may be pathologically narcissistic is very helpful, I know for me, it was extremely helpful because it helped me see that my situation was hopeless, that the relationship really was hopeless, and that I needed to stop devoting time and energy into trying to fix it or keep it together. But in hindsight, and I've said this before, it really doesn't matter if you're able to figure out whether or not somebody is narcissistic. Anybody that engages in these kinds of behaviors, anybody that treats you this way, just doesn't deserve you, doesn't deserve your time and effort, doesn't deserve anything from you. You're too good for somebody that treats you like you don't matter, that uses you as an emotional punching bag, that confuses you, that sucker punches you with emotional violence for no reason, for nothing that you have done. To me, narcissism is very interesting, and researching it has helped me make sense out of the things that happened to me. But the bottom line is, it really doesn't matter if somebody's a narcissist or not. In real life, if someone's treating you this way, it's just really nothing that you should ever have to put up with. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.